welcome everybody to another episode of the Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Phillips here. We talk about everything baseball that is going on, both Major League Baseball and in the minor leagues and the World Baseball Classic when that comes around as well. So we are your one-stop shop for all of your baseball information. Today we have a wonderful guest. Today we have Jared Sandler, who is the play-by-play voice for the Texas Rangers. He's also on 105.3 The Fan, also on Bally Sports. He's the founder of the Sandlot charity and was a former baseball player for USC Baseball. Jared, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So real quick, as a former player, before we get to that, I guess, your last name is Sandler. I'm guessing you get asked a lot of questions if you are related to the famous actor Adam Sandler, or if you're related to the maybe lesser known Sandler that is Jared Sandler, so your same name as well.
Yeah, so I do. I get asked about that probably more than I get made fun of for not being tall. I'm 5'7", so I get a lot of short jokes. But
Okay.
yeah, so I do actually know Jared. I don't know Adam. I'd love to meet him. But Jared and I were at USC, not at the same time. We missed each other by a year, but because of the similarities in name and the fact that we both get tagged for one another's events or broadcasts quite often, we've just gotten to know each other a little bit over the years. He's seems like a really good guy. I've never actually met him in person. We've interacted. I actually interviewed him at one point for fun on a podcast, and
Awesome.
he seems to be making a name for himself and doing some good stuff. So that's awesome.
Okay. Now I have to ask, when we Google the name Jared Sandler, don't put anything afterwards, his is the name that comes up first. Is that are you okay with that, or would you rather be the number one guy?
That stuff doesn't bother me. If I walked down the street and no one knew who I was, that would not offend me at all.
Okay.
If he gets top billing, then first of all, it's probably the way it should be. He's in a bunch of movies and whatnot, but it doesn't bother me one bit.
All right. Have you seen any of his stuff or no?
So, yeah, I have. I've seen. I know he's been in a few straight to Netflix movies through the Happy Madison production company, which obviously was started by Adam and some of Adam's friends, and then he's done some stand up as well, and I've seen some clips of that. So I mean, again, I've never met him. It would probably be unfair for me to say I'm friends with him, but I don't want to overstate our relationship. But I like supporting him. So if he's in something, I try to watch it.
Okay. Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. Well, enough about the movie talk and the names and everything like that. We had you on for baseball because we want to talk baseball here on the show. So let's kind of get into this. Like I said at the beginning, you were the play-by-play guy for the Texas Rangers. How did you get into all this to begin with? How did this all come about?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a sports-centric family. My family's from South Africa, and so my family didn't grow up necessarily playing the traditional American sports. It was a lot of soccer and rugby and cricket and track and field, which is a little bit bigger there than maybe it is here for kids growing up. And then my oldest brother was born there. My other brother was born in New York, and then I was born in Dallas. And we all grew up in America, and so we all grew up maybe more tied to American sports. And so sports was just a huge part of my upbringing. I played everything I could play. I watched. I didn't really watch cartoons or any of that stuff, and it was just sports. And I got to a point where I was no longer able to keep playing sports, and I decided I wanted to do something in sports. I didn't really know what. I knew that if you were a writer, a sports writer, then you got to go to the games for free.
Okay.
I didn't really know much beyond that. I didn't know you got to bring a friend or whatever, but I thought, maybe it'd be cool to, get into sports journalism so I could go to sporting events. I didn't know that I actually would care about the work. I just liked the idea of going to sporting events, and then the more I actually kind of took a mature approach and thought about it, the more sports journalism seemed to be of appeal, and didn't know at the time whether that'd be print or broadcast or what form, and slowly learned that the broadcasting side, the live game, live event side was really appealing, and when I went to college at USC, I really pursued that. And yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to trick enough people to give me jobs, and I've never had to consider anything else. So that's kind of the short of how I got into it. But the root of it is I grew up around sports. Sports is my biggest non-human passion, outside of family and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I can eat, sleep, and breathe sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not get tired of it. So I just wanted to do something that allowed me uh, to I guess, stay in touch with sports, something that I love to do, and so I went down that route.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you sound like a guy after my own heart. I've gotten asked a lot of times from friends and family since I watch pretty much all the sports that are on there, like American sports. If that's all I watch and that's all I like do and kind of care about, so I'm glad to see that there is somebody else out there that is that same mindset and passion. You mentioned that you went to USC. I'm guessing that is why you have USC tagged in your X profile there, or USC baseball tagged in your profile. Can you tell us a little more about that? I'm guessing you did call the games for them, or?
Yeah, no. So I went there. I think a lot of people are fortunate to be in a position where they have a choice to make collegiately, and the choice I made or that I had to make was whether I wanted to go to a smaller school and play either baseball or football, or go to a bigger school and just kind of move on with that chapter of my life. And I ultimately made the decision to go to USC 95% because of the bigger picture side of it, pursuing what was going to be life for me after playing sports, but they also gave me the opportunity to try and walk on. And when I was there,
Nice.
it was still the time period where in college baseball, and I don't know how the rules have evolved since I left, but you used to basically, be able to have as many red shirts as you would be able to finance as a program, because obviously
Okay.
even if a player's not on scholarship, you got to pay for certain things for them, equipment, food, as it's appropriate, stuff like that. And then obviously you don't want to just have 100 kids in your program, because then that's just a lot of work. But as many
Right.
kids as you wanted, you could technically have. You could redshirt them. They wouldn't count towards the active roster. And then I think after my sophomore year, they ended up changing the rules to where there was a limit on the amount of redshirts you could have relative to your active 35-player roster. Well, when I first got there, it was that previous iteration of rules, and so they kept me around, not because I was good enough to truly compete at that level, but I worked hard. I guess I was good enough,
Hmm.
but it was more of like a Rudy type thing, except I didn't see it out for 4 years and ever get to play. So I stayed with the program for 3 years after that I think my technical title was undergraduate assistant coach. That's also a little
Okay.
deceiving, but the NCAA, as a lot of people know, is a really messed up organization. And
Yeah.
so, in order for me to do certain things that they wanted me to do, I had to have that title, to be able to
Hmm.
travel, to be able to catch bullpens, to be able to throw batting practice, hit fungo, stuff of that nature. And so it wasn't like I was taking players aside and working with them on their mechanics and coaching in that regard, but it was really more just supporting the coaches both on field and the operations side with recruiting. Uh, Oversaw the equipment and the student manager program we had, which I was also kind of semi a part of, and then semi just really more so oversaw it. I would never claim to be as talented as the guys who actually suited up and played for us over those 4 years. But that program meant a lot to me then. It means a lot to me now. Put in a lot of time at the field at Dado Field in LA, and a lot of people's college experience is shaped on various activities they participate in, and for me, it was somewhat broadcasting, but mostly my time tied to and spent with the baseball program.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. Like I said, I'd love to have been someone who played collegiately. That wasn't in the cards for me at all. So the fact that you were able to, go and walk on and everything, like that's pretty cool. Um, so you obviously, like I said at the beginning of the show, and like several times, like you are the play-by-play guy for the Texas Rangers. How long have you been doing that, and how did you kind of get into that to begin with?
Yeah, so this is my 10th year. I probably wouldn't be fair to say I'm the play-by-play guy. There's three of us. Eric Nadel, who's a Hall of Famer, and this is his 45th year with the Rangers.
Whoa, okay.
Matt Hicks, who's been with the Rangers for a little more than a decade, and then I'm honored to be a part of the team with those two. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Dallas, and I grew up a diehard Rangers fan. So, if I was fortunate enough to get to call major league games, which was, always seemed like a pipe dream, I thought it would be cool to be able to do it for the Rangers, which just getting to call games, like I said, is a pipe dream. And then to be able to go to the one place out of the 30 destinations that, would be nearest to your heart. I mean, that just, I don't know. That seems like an unreasonable thing to expect. And I was doing minor league baseball for 3 years. Made the decision that instead of going up the minor league ladder and just going from A ball to Double A and Double A to Triple A, and having to weather that that grind, which could last for who knows how long, because it's not like a
Sure.
player where after 7 years you become a free agent and can sign with any organization. You could be stuck in Double A broadcasting for 15 years, and a lot of this is luck. There's a huge luck component to a lot of this, but I got out of the minor league treadmill and decided to move back to DFW. Took an on-air job on a part-time basis with the ESPN radio affiliate that was in the Metroplex at the time.
Nice.
And they were at the time the flagship of the Rangers. Did stuff for the Rangers, the Cowboys, the Mavericks while there. And then 9 months later, the role that I currently have from the Rangers opened up, and I was able to to pursue that, and I've been with the Rangers ever since.
Awesome. So it sounds a lot like just the cliche of right time, right place then.
Yeah, I definitely got lucky. I think at first I was a little guilty that it happened for me so quickly, when I know that there and still are very capable, talented broadcasters, some of whom maybe better than I am, who are caught up in that that minor league spin cycle. But I think while that was something I had to reconcile internally, feeling guilty, I also know that the amount of time I've put into this, the work ethic is something I can be proud of. And so if I had a little luck break my way, I'm super thankful for that. But I definitely don't take it for granted, and try and continue to work as hard as I can to take advantage of the opportunities.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, man. That's a pretty awesome accomplishment for sure. And yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there that would love to switch positions with you. And the fact that you get to do it for a team that you grew up and rooted for, that probably's got to be just like the cherry on the top. So obviously, I'm a Seattle Mariners fan here, and you call the games for the Rangers, and they just wrapped up a big series, and the AL West is still up for grabs, although it looks like the Rangers might be putting a stranglehold on that. What are your thoughts from the recent series between the Texas Rangers and the Seattle Mariners?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely surprised. I didn't think the Rangers would be able to, or I guess I knew they were able to. I didn't think they were going to sweep the Mariners. I think really highly of the Mariners. Before the season, I actually thought that the Mariners were the team that would give the Rangers the biggest challenge to winning the AL West, and that was probably just a gentle way of saying I thought the Mariners would win the AL West. So I was a little surprised, especially with the way things have gone for the Rangers here of late. But the Rangers got out to this great start. It wasn't for 1 month or 2 months. I mean, it was 3.5 months, and they're a really good team. They have a odd winning formula. They don't tend to win a lot of games 4-2 or 5-3 or 4-3, and your traditional kind of lower scoring close game, because their bullpen isn't equipped to do that. Day after day. They win a lot of games like they did on Sunday, which is get up 7-2 and 9-5 and just hold on and see if they can hold the line and get across the finish line with the lead. Now the win Saturday, in which they beat the Mariners 2-0, those are the types of wins they haven't been able to collect a lot of, and so it was probably a good opportunity for them to get a win like that. but they have a great lineup, and they defend really well, and they have good enough starting pitching. The biggest question mark for the Rangers has been their bullpen all year long, and they've gone through stretches where they've been able to skirt that being an issue, and then they recently after the All-Star break went through a 6-week stretch in which it was a huge issue, and it took them from commanding lead of first place in the division to out of a playoff spot. And thankfully they've been able to bounce back and like you said, put themselves in a position to not just make the playoffs but win the division in doing so.
Yeah, yeah. I will admit, when I thought they lost that lead and were out of the wild cards, like that was going to be the end of them, and it would be a 2-horse race between the Astros and the Mariners. But these two teams are going to meet at the final 3-game series at the end of the season here. What are your thoughts on that, as like kind of projecting from now until like the end of the year?
As far as like what I think that series means, or what specifically?
I mean, any implications? Like, could that be like just the Rangers have everything locked up, so they're not having to really try as hard, where the Mariners are still trying to get into the playoffs, or could it be somehow these two teams are battling out to see who's getting the AL West crown?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be any and all of those. Obviously 2 games left for the Mariners with the Astros, and the Rangers have 2 left with the Angels. And the Rangers definitely are in the driver's seat, specifically as it pertains to the Mariners. But what the Mariners can hope for is a 3-way tie, because if the Mariners, Astros, and Rangers have a 3-way tie, pretty much the only way that can play out is if the Mariners if that plays out that way, then the Mariners would win the tiebreaker, and they would actually be the division winners. So, it'd be great for the Rangers to take care of business against the Angels, win games on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that would basically put them in full control of winning the division. I don't even know that they would necessarily have to win a game against the Mariners to clinch the division, depending on what happens with the Mariners and the Astros. But if the Mariners win the next 2 games against the Astros and the Rangers falter, then all of a sudden it's a totally different conversation. So it's tough to know right now. I would imagine that the Mariners will certainly be playing for something, obviously. I think the Rangers would love if they were only playing for something maybe on Thursday or Friday, and then be able to just kind of get guys work and do what they need to do to prepare for their first playoff matchup, which wouldn't take place until the following weekend. But I don't know. It's tough to say, and that's a part of what's made this week super exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way we've been following the playoff race, both for all of baseball, and the way that this division has kind of been so tight knit here the last few months, has been kind of fun to watch, because like every game really, really matters in terms of winning the division. Then also, it looks like 2 out of the 3 teams that we're talking about for the ALS are going to get into the playoffs, with the third one not making it in. So every game matters, because you're either in the playoffs or you're not. So been a lot of fun to watch with these teams here as they battle down the stretch. Obviously we talked about how at this point it looks like the Rangers are going to be making it into the playoffs. What are kind of your thoughts or expectations of them once they're in? Like, do you think they're going to be the AL West the champion, or they'll get in as a wild card, and then just kind of once they're in, what can they do?
Yeah, I mean, I know the cliche answer is that once you get in, anything can happen, and I mean it's a cliche because it's true. I know we always feel like we can forecast these things, but you just can't. I would say that it's going to be a challenge to the Rangers to win with the same formula they've used throughout most of the regular season, which is what we talked about, just scoring a lot of runs and holding on, because runs tend to drop a little bit in the playoffs. You're going to face the best pitchers always with off days. You're going to have fewer instances in which a really good reliever is unavailable, like you would throughout the regular season. So they're going to have to win close games, and they just have not shown that they can do that consistently. Now, does that mean that they can't do it in the playoffs? No, it doesn't mean that, because all it takes is a couple of relievers. A lot of people talk about, can these hitters get hot? Well, for the Rangers, it's more, hey, can this reliever and that reliever maybe just get into a rhythm and get big outs for the team? Because if they get a couple guys who step up, then I think they got as good a shot as anyone. Obviously, they're not going to be the favorites, but if they can't, then they're going to have a really tough time unless they just really outscore people. And what I mean by that is not outscore them 3-2, but put up 6, 7, 8 runs a game. That's going to have to be their formula if they can't get the type of requisite production from their bullpen. The other thing is, in the playoffs, you can be more creative with the way you deploy pitchers. You're not going to have a 5-man rotation. You really might not even have a 4-man rotation, depending on how you want to play your cards. You got starters who are going to now pitch out of the bullpen. You got guys who will make starts for you who, instead of throwing their side 3 days later, might give you an inning out of the bullpen in a meaningful situation, which you don't ever see during the regular season. So it's tough to know how that's all going to play out. I think the Rangers, I don't know. I think Vegas always does a pretty good job of not guaranteeing anything, but giving you a pretty fair, unbiased view as to how teams stack up. And the Rangers might be the 2 seed if they win the division, but I don't know that they would have the second shortest odds to come out of the American League. I think it's very possible they'd be behind not just Baltimore, but also Tampa. And, I don't know how it would play out if Houston would have to obviously win the wild card round to then advance, but I think there's a chance that the Rangers odds and the Astros odds aren't far from one another if it's the Astros who get in. And same with the Mariners, to be honest with you, because I just don't think there's a whole lot of separation between those teams. The advantage the Rangers would have is they'd get that automatic bye to the ALDS and not have to deal with the uncertainty of getting through the wild card round. So I think the great thing for the Rangers is this is not a year in which if they don't win at all, they're going to be miserably bad for the next 6 years. You never can guarantee anything. The Rangers might come back next year and not make the playoffs. I mean, I don't think Mariners fans last year went into the offseason thinking, gosh, we might not make the playoffs this year. I think with all the momentum and the progress they made, but it's possible the Mariners don't make the playoffs. So nothing's ever guaranteed. But I think for the Rangers, the feeling is the arrow's pointing up, and just getting to the playoffs is a big step, and whatever they can do from there is gravy towards their continued development.
Yeah. And Jared, I mean, the one thing that the Texas Rangers do have on their side is that they have a manager in Bruce Bochy who's won this World Series multiple times. Like, he knows how to navigate the postseason and kind of navigate teams as they're making runs to get into the playoffs and everything like that. So I think that will be beneficial for them for sure. You mentioned about kind of future success, and I kind of want to jump down the prospect line, the farm system here for the Rangers. They've got 3, I'll say, really big name guys, and by big name I mean guys that are kind of recognizable nationally and stuff. Kumar Rocker, Wyatt Langford, who's the most recent draft pick for them, and then Jack Leiter. What do you think their realistic chances are being in the majors maybe next year or like in the next 2 years?
Well, I think Jack Leiter has a good shot next year. With Kumar Rocker, because he had Tommy John surgery, I think next year would be highly unlikely just based on his recovery. But the year after that, I think, is possible. And you mentioned Wyatt Langford as well. Was he the other one?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Gosh, I mean, I think the Rangers are one injury away from Wyatt Langford making his major league debut this year. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I think someone would have to get hurt just because right now the guys who are playing in the spots in which he would occupy are playing well. But a few days prior to the Mariners-Rangers series, the Rangers offense was really struggling, and I think there was some thought that if they had a couple of games consecutively in which they continue to struggle, that we'd see Wyatt Langford. But guys have turned it around. So with that said, that doesn't guarantee Wyatt Langford will be on the opening day roster next year, but I think that Wyatt Langford will be a big leaguer, if not opening day next year, very shortly thereafter.
Okay. Well, that'd be very impressive. I'd be curious to see if somehow maybe Wyatt gets added to like the postseason roster at all or anything like that. Just sometimes you get a little creative here. I know last year the Mariners kept Marco Gonzalez off of their roster, which was kind of shocking considering he's been with the team for so long and everything. So I want to turn it over to, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned how you are the, I believe, founder of the Sandlot charity. I want to give you this time to tell us a little bit more about that charity.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. I started this charity in 2017 to support kids with physical and intellectual disabilities, and specifically to help provide financial assistance to organizations that offer these kids athletic and active programming. A big need for kids with disabilities is the need to have an active lifestyle, health and wellness. I guess maybe generally speaking, it's very easy for these kids to stick to sedentary programming or just have a sedentary lifestyle, which, despite some of the challenges they might have, is it's not a necessary limitation for them, but it's certainly not healthy either. And then on top of that, sports played such a huge role in my life, not just having fun actually competing, but making friends and learning lessons and building confidence and communication skills. And then as you get older, leadership skills and stuff of that nature. And just want to be able to provide kids with disabilities, these opportunities. I don't think that, they should be without them just because there are some financial challenges. It's a lot more expensive for a kid in a wheelchair to go and play wheelchair basketball than it is someone who's able-bodied, and I just don't want that financial barrier to be in the way. So started this in 2017. It's been a passion project, and have really enjoyed getting to interact with a lot of people, getting to meet a lot of people throughout the process, and get to work with some outstanding organizations that are able to provide these kids with these opportunities.
That's awesome, man. Way to go. That's a really wonderful charity. I'm sure there's a lot more kids out there that are very appreciative and probably can't express to you just how appreciative they are of what you're doing and everything. That is a wonderful charity to start. For everybody that's out there, is there a way for people out there to, I guess I should say, how can people out there support your charity? Donations or what other things can they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way is donating. You just go to thesandlot.org, the Sandlot Children's Charity. So the website's thesandlot.org. You go there, and then just like a lot of these charitable websites, it's pretty easy to find the donate button. That's a big one for us. So you can do that. If you're in the DFW Metroplex, we have fundraising events throughout the year, and we definitely love people to show up, purchase a ticket, see what we're about. We really try and put on some fun events, and our next one is coming up in December at Globe Life Field, the home of the Rangers. People will actually be on the field, again, to participate in all sorts of different activities like wiffle ball home run derby. You can play catch on a major league field, go to one of the batting cages at the ballpark, and then we'll also have activities and games for other sports and disciplines as well. So if people want to support, I think the best way to do it, just go to thesandlot.org. You can donate there, or you can check out our events tab and see what events we have coming up.
Awesome. You mentioned the wiffle ball home run derby, and earlier how you pitched some BP. Are you the pitcher for the wiffle ball home run derby?
I don't know. We've never done it before. I probably won't. I guess I'd be happy to. I like swinging it more, so I'd like to step in the box and take some hacks. But if they run out of arms, I'm happy to step in there and throw some meatballs. I was always good at that when I actually did pitch, which was thankfully not very often.
Okay, awesome. Well, Jared, don't want to keep you too long. I know the Rangers have a game tonight in Anaheim, and while I would personally root for you to have success and everything for the team, I'm going to selfishly hope that the Rangers lose, because my team can need it more than you guys. So don't want to keep you, but everybody out there, follow Jared on X at Jared Sandler. You can also catch him doing the games for Bally Sports and 105.3 The Fan. Again, he is the founder of Sandlot Charity. Please check out that organization. It is a wonderful organization, and if you have the means to do so, make a contribution and donation. If you can't, go, like you said, check out the events tab. Go check out the next events that they have coming up. You can follow us on X at Replacement Level 1. You can follow myself on X at C_Phillips_13. My colleague Rafal Neganowinski, you can follow him at Rafal N613. Again, he is over in Israel on a gap year and everything. He's doing very well over there. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to get your podcasts. Like us, share us with your friends, interact with us. We'd love to talk baseball with you. I personally love to hear all the things things that I'm very smart on that I call right. But at the same time, I do love a discussion, and please enlighten me on areas that I'm wrong on, because I can only get better by knowing what I don't know. So, Jared, thank you again so much for coming on here. We definitely want to have you back on the show. And if your Texas Rangers are able to win the division or just make it into the playoffs, we will be rooting for your continued success of your team and then also of your professional career as well.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And everybody, until we have the next show, have a great day and take care.